Let's do it.
All right. There it is.
There it is.
Progress.
It's all happening. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Trying to Be Better with Joel and Steve podcast. Brought to you tonight by good old-fashioned water. Water can't really sponsor us, but I really like water.
Is water a they? Is that a...
It's a they.
Should we be calling it like Dasani? Did they get the rights to that yet?
This is Lincoln, Nebraska aquifer watershed water. Beautiful. That's been filtered, but I sweated my ass off outside clearing out.
Joel sent me just so everybody knows, Joel did actual manual labor the last couple days.
I used
a picture of this giant pile of scrub brush.
Yeah. I had to clear out. So I had a bunch of weeds back there that had gotten out of hand, and my wife had been sort of elbowing me in the last few days, like, "Hey, you should probably do that." And let me tell you, I'm not going to change my day job from teaching to landscaping anytime soon. I'm sore. I sweated buckets today. So, yeah.
There are days when I think, it would be nice just to go work outside for a while. And then I go outside and I'm like, no, I'm going to go back inside.
I'm going to go back to the air conditioning, please. Right. Yep. Yeah. Couple of things before we get going. We have an amazing guest tonight and I can't wait to introduce her, but find us on Instagram at Trying to Be Better Podcast and email the podcast at Steve, take it.
ttbbpodcast@gmail.com.
Do we have any emails?
We do not.
Okay. So email us. Otherwise, we're just going to stop saying it. Please email us.
No, I'm going to keep saying it. Someday somebody will email us.
Please email us. Right. Tell us about your day.
Sure.
The other bit of housekeeping before we launch into our conversation that I want to bring up is that I got to witness Steve Erbauer play rock and roll with Exile on O Street, Lincoln's premier tribute to the Rolling Stones on
Southeast
Saturday.
Nebraska's premier Rolling Stones.
I stand corrected. The regional's best tribute to the Rolling. And holy buckets. You guys started playing at 9. I didn't get there until after the fireworks at 10:30, and there was still
we wrapped up at 1:15.
And it was solid Stones the whole time.
41 songs.
Amazing. Yeah, you guys were great.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
You guys were great. It was a lot of fun, and you guys sounded amazing.
It's one of those. It's I know it's only rock and roll, but I really like it. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, dude. Well done. Do you have any gigs coming up?
August 7th at Rosie's in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay.
Yep.
Be there.
Okay. Get your yayas out.
Get your yayas out, please. Right. Speaking of yayas, we have an amazing I don't know. Sorry, Anne. We have an
Joel.
We have amazing guests tonight, and I'm so stoked. We didn't even really get to chit chat much, but one of my very favorite people in the whole wide world, Anne DeAcetis, is on the podcast tonight. I reached out to Anne, I don't know, not even a week ago to see if she would do it because she's an amazing person and a dear friend, but also she's in a band, and I just got their vinyl in the mail. And so cool things are happening in Anne's life, but Anne's just an all-around cool person. I went to Cal Arts with Anne, and that's where we met. But since then, I know Anne's had an amazing, interesting, vivacious sort of career that she's carved out herself. And I'm just really stoked to have her as a friend, and I'm really stoked to have her on the podcast. So we give a big Trying to Be Better welcome to Anne DeAcetis.
Hi, Anne. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. What an introduction. Thank you, Joel. Joel is also one of my favorite people, so I'm completely thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Anne is already out doing the microphone contest with us. She's in her voiceover cave. I can see blankets draped above her, and she's got this huge rig. She's even got cans on. I'm jealous. She's more prepared for this conversation on podcast than we are. So glad you're here.
Seriously need to up our game, man.
Yeah.
Coming to you live from Ruben's closet. This is Ruben's closet, which is where a lot of voiceover magic happens. It's true.
Sure. Well, that's the joy of modern technology is you can do that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Anne, where do we even start with you?
Oh God.
I mean that's I mean okay, so when I met you in 2006, we hit it off right away because you're just a really personable, wonderful person to chat with. And it
Oh,
became very clear that you had already kind of like, I think you took the longest time between undergraduate and graduate school and our entire cohort. So you had worked in Chicago, you'd worked in New York.
yeah.
Are you born and raised New York? Is that where you're?
Yeah, I'm originally from New York. I was born in Queens, lived there until I was 5, and then, I mean, we're really taking it back. But
Yeah, let's
and then
go.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I was born at 1:40 a.m.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Port Washington when I was 5 years old, and that's where I, finished high school and everything else. But
Mhm.
yeah, what's been fun about my career is that I did not try to achieve any kind of commercial success to fund more adventurous work. I just went straight to the adventurous work. It was a bunch of us all relocated to Chicago, which is a very, very friendly city to new companies.
Yeah.
And we just started doing, experimental productions of Greek plays and adaptations from French novels and, Beckett and whatever we felt like doing. And as much as I feel like from a commercial perspective, I spent sort of my hottest, most bankable years making this downtown entrepreneurial work, it also really made me feel accomplished and confident in a way that I wouldn't trade because I just didn't, I just never put it off. I just never thought, well, right now I need to do this because this is what people want from me. And then later I'll do my own thing. It was me, Katie Tabor, who was the managing director, and Joanna Settle, who's now a very accomplished theater director. Um, we were the core, sort of at the latter part of the company's life, and I just wouldn't have traded that for anything. So yeah, we relocated to New York as a company at one point because we'd sort of hit a ceiling in Chicago.
Mhm.
Chicago is great. It's so great. I don't want to say anything bad about Chicago, but they sort of like their small nonprofits, like tiny and scrappy, like
Mhm.
urchins, like little
Yeah.
street urchins. And if we wanted to raise more money, they wanted us to start having a subscriber base and announcing a season. And we were very project based. I mean, we would do one show that would with a budget of $70,000, and then we'd do something that was an installation in the window display at a futon shop for like
Mhm.
3,500. And they just
Nice.
didn't understand that
Yeah.
we were scaling to what the work needed to be,
Mm.
and that made sense to us.
Mhm.
As the development director, the long-suffering development director, I was always having to explain, like, why didn't we take $30,000 and do 3 shows for 10 grand each? It's like, because that would
Yeah.
never occur to us to do that.
Right.
So then we thought, we're project-based. I'm from New York. Joanna was from New York. Katie had always wanted to try it. And so we just said, well, New York is just ultimately project-based. So let's
Mm.
just go there.
Mm.
And that's where the company sort of rode out the rest of its time. I mean, at a certain point, the other members of the company wanted to get married and have children, and that's sort of the death of a small nonprofit. And honestly, because it just sucks up all your energy and your
Yeah.
time. And so I had to think, well, what do I want to do with my time? And I had always thought about going and studying acting in graduate school
Mm.
because as an undergrad, I had this thought, and I think it's right. I'm not, who knows, but I always felt like there's only so much an undergraduate degree in theater is going to do for you. It's the
Yeah.
MFA that is. And so I thought, well, I love to write. I love to read. Mount Holyoke has a pretty great English department. I think I'm going to go to the mountaintop of the English department and be a theater minor. And then if I really want to later, I'll go to graduate school for acting if I
Mhm.
can.
Mhm.
And that's when I met Joel.
Mm.
And I did think, like maybe I should try to have a little bit more commercial success. It would be nice to have a little bit of money, like just a little bit of money. Well, and this is where it's just, those TV commercials where there's the investment banker and he's sitting across from the nice couple and they're talking about how if they just do things a little bit differently, they can buy their jet skis earlier than they planned. Like, I am not on track to have any of those conversations. So
You mean
I
about
did,
jet skis?
they've got their lake house or whatever. Like, I did try to, like, I went for Yale, NYU. I didn't think it was worth it if you couldn't get into a top program,
Yeah.
but I knew that my weird, like I say, downtown entrepreneurial theater artist past would make total sense at CalArts.
Yeah.
And they without reservation just scooped me right up, and
Yeah.
it was the most amazing rabbit hole that Joel and I went down together for 3 years.
It really was. Like, I think that our conversation maybe after our initial audition for them was probably similar, because I think it was the weird stuff I had done, the weird original work I had done that got them excited. My audition wasn't spectacular. It was the fact that I was an artist outside of the box a little bit that they were excited about me. And I think you and I share a similar, even though you had probably a little more time working professionally than I did before graduate school, that was a thing. I think something that sparkled on the resume, maybe.
Sure, and they just love hopeless cases, which isn't to say, oh God,
I about spit out my water.
Which isn't to say that some of our classmates and people that we studied with aren't doing
oh my God,
amazingly well.
I see them all the time. They're doing great. They're fine.
They're fine. But it's true. I think the outside the box artists are the ones who get the most attention there, and I just loved it because I came in with a list as long as my arm of things that I'd been wanting to work on that either didn't fit what the company was doing or that I just didn't have time for on top of the company and things like that. So, and music was actually part of that. I ended up, I took a singing class. I took a theory class from Dan Rosenboom, the trumpet player, who is a monster, by the way. If people are not following his career, he's incredible. And actually, I want to send him a bit of a thank you note, because the class that I took from him in the music school, which was a little bit music theory for dummies, saved me because we all have our best laid plans, and I came out with my acting degree, and I have worked as an actor some, but within about 2 years, I was really feeling the pressure of not having an ongoing creative project to work on, something that was always there. I was auditioning plenty. I found an agent. She's still with me now. Like, God bless. She's a believer. Like, I would have dropped me by now, but she really roots for me, and so she sends me out. And we could do a whole podcast about near misses, man, and what they do to your head.
Wow.
What they do to your head.
Right.
Because I've definitely got some stories there. But because those near misses were so painful, and because it's also episodic, you go out, you come back, you try and forget, you go out again, you come back, you try to forget. I thought, I'm going to lose my mind. I need something, for a long time I had the company, and then I had graduate school, and I needed this through line that needed me, that I could need, and it was music.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy is that I got into theater in the first place because it was an opportunity to sing. I started out as a singer. I sang in all the little choruses. I wasn't nearly good enough to be a soloist until I was in high school. And I was in the chorus of countless shows just because it was another chance to sing. And then at a certain point, I realized I was a much better singer than I was an actor, and I got really pissed off. And that took me on this tangent to really, really trying to crack acting. But there was this very wonderful sort of natural return to music, which initially was not with James Boudreau, who's the band leader for Bell Helium. It was with Willie and the Wolves, which was this great retro Latin and R&B fun bar band that I was in for, I think like 8 years. And that was I think it was like 2001 to 2019.
That's a good run.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't even know the glory days we were in. And that was Willie Wolf, who was the band leader and the main songwriter, great songwriter, Fred Ginsburg on the trumpet. We were sort of the core three. Hashem Asadulahi on sax, Steve Marks on bass, and Len Zaccaro on drums. And we went from playing little bars in Brooklyn that were with stages that were too small for us to stages in Manhattan that were too small to fit all of us, and we just we became a bit of a regular at this bar, Patty Riley's, and we didn't even know. I mean, we didn't even know what a glory time we were in when it
Yeah.
was happening. But that was an amazing run, and that really got me grounded back in music again.
Hmm.
And then as that project was winding down, as you know, these things do, like they have their lifespan, and people have other things they want to do. And Willie's songwriting was starting to change. It was like he was writing for a new band. It was strange, you know, but it was wrapping. That's when James and I were in touch again. We'd known each other since high school, and he'd played in some bands. He played with the Billy Nair Show for a while, and he just got frustrated with trying to find his voice, or I don't know. I don't want to speak for him here. I know that he got frustrated because he started his own label when we were roommates together in Brooklyn, and he started doing these incredible, very rough recordings right there in the apartment. And he did these a couple experimental records. One of them was called Java Street Bagatelles. We lived on Java Street, and you know, the cat is on there. My old cat, Sweet Pea. She's credited with percussion because she jumps down and her little collar jingles and stuff. So, but he'd gone into this period of time when he was not playing out. He was doing, you know, he did another recording called Astral Law that's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And then it was a few years back that, you know, he started to want to play out again. And he ended up with this residency at Shrine in Harlem, a Shrine World Music Venue, which is a great, great spot. And he was there one Thursday a month for 2017, 2018. So I heard that he was doing this, and I just started showing up. Can I swear on this podcast?
Fuck
Yes.
yeah.
I just fucking started showing up because I knew how hard it was to build audience. I mean, after all of my time producing theater and all of my time in the other bands and whatever else, like, if somebody you believe in is playing, fucking show up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would go, and as much as I could, and it's a bit of a trek because I live on Long Island, but I would go up to Harlem and I would sit there, and they were doing, he put together this project, just James Boudreau Band. He just wanted to play out. And it was Grateful Dead covers, Richard and Linda Thompson, Dylan, ended up doing some Joni Mitchell. And after not so long, I not so secretly started hoping that I might be asked to sit in. And and my dreams came true. And then the second year of the residency, I was there pretty much full time. And at the end of all that, there were all these different musicians who had cycled through that, right? Depending on who was available.
True.
And James just like pointed at people, and he was like, you. Do you want to make a record? I have a bunch of originals. I'm working on originals. And there was only, I think, one newcomer in all of that who was the drummer. So now Bell Helium comes together. We don't have a name yet. We start going into rehearsal, right? So it's James Boudreau, who's the band leader and the main songwriter, Kaylee O'Doherty, who's a monster on keyboards, Corey Cox on the drums, Ian Riggs on bass, and myself trying to keep up. And James is bringing in different songs, and some of them he's just like, I like this song, but it's for a different band, or it's for a different record, or it's for a different something else. He was very reserved in terms of what he asked anybody to do. He brought everybody to the table because he liked their voice. The only time he ever said anything to me was kind of, what are you doing? Why are you hiding? Let us hear you. And I was growing
That's
out
amazing.
of, yes, a great band leader moment, by the way. Because I was growing out of my time with Willie and the Wolves and into whatever the next thing was going to be. And something I'd really love to talk about actually is how much this stuff is linked to personal growth for me. I mean, I find these voices and I inhabit these voices, and
Please talk about that.
They teach me about things, and you know, so that was really the only note that he had for me, was just, it was kind of just like, Anne, just sing. I really just want to hear you sing.
Well, it sounds to me like he put, I mean, and this is why I love that you're on here, Anne, and I know you, so I can call you out. It's like, you just start talking. It's just let Anne talk.
Oh God.
I love it. No, that's why you're the perfect guest. But I just want to put a pin in the whole, like, he just put, you know, as a band leader, put the talent and the interesting folks together.
Yeah.
And just let that happen organically, it sounds like. And the only thing you could do wrong in that scenario is hide your light.
Well, this is the thing: is he brings so much to the table as a songwriter and as a guitarist, and he expects you to bring. And he's a soft-spoken, wonderful, kind guy, but it's definitely about he's as curious as he is prescriptive. So he puts this group of people together because he likes what they bring. He throws his song in the mix, and he goes, "I wonder what will happen."
Yes.
And then it starts to develop. And one of the things that we love about this record is that it doesn't feel like anyone's showcase in the end. Every
Agreed.
musician on this record is really on this record.
Yeah.
And that's just something that got built in a very concentrated, period of rehearsal.
That's the thing that I noticed as I was listening to it today is that everybody has their voice. Like I can tell each individual player, I can tell each individual kind of personality, and nobody's playing just like filler.
Yeah.
It's really fantastic.
Yeah, I credit James a lot with that because he knew which songs to keep developing and which ones to put aside. We would work on something and he would write a new song. I mean, I don't know exactly what all of his process was. Really, you should have James on clearly because I keep trying to figure out how he does it.
Yeah.
But in the end, we went into the studio. Aside from some, extra hand percussion, I think James laid in some guitars. We did backing vocals on a different day. This record was recorded in a single day.
Wow.
And then the name came last.
The name of the
where did the
band
name come
The
from?
name of the band came last.
Where did that come from?
Oh, it's James, and he wanted something that represented a balance of heavy and light. And that's where the record it's a moody record, but it's also a joyful record. And I think that as a philosopher, when we think about life, there's that incredible mix. There's there's the heights and the depths, and they're in the songs. And I think that that he wanted to honor that. And was trying to figure out how to do it. And it just came out of him one day because there were a certain amount of discussions about names and we tossed a few ideas around. And then one day he just said Bell Helium. And we were all like, yeah.
Okay. Well, that song, Beautiful Day, that's how I was listening to it just, 40 minutes ago driving home. And because the chorus and the verse is very major. And then you get into the Fender Rhodes solo bit that is a little dissonant and a little dark. And then it comes back around and I love that.
Yeah.
Because it really does encompass it's not a beautiful day. That's kind of a day.
Well put.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's there's some dissonance and there's some uncertainty and there's some tension and then it'll spring up and you have these moments of it's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Coming back to the beautiful day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's transcendence, there's transcendence and there's struggle. And I think that it's not, it just doesn't feel like a heavy record to me as much as some of the songs are like deep mood. Even the mood is beauty. And then the stuff that's chirpy and happy, it just makes me so happy. When I'm having a bad day, I'll listen to the record. And it's funny. I'm going to steal something from Michael Shannon here because you know how actors and performers will often say I can't listen to I can't watch myself on screen. I can't listen to my voice or whatever else. Somebody asked Michael Shannon about that on a red carpet once, and he found the most amazing way to sort of cast light and throw shade at the same time. Because he said, it's not only my work that's up there. It's my scene partner and the lighting person and the DP and the director and the costumer and the cinematographer and and he just went on and on and on. And I love listening to the other musicians on this record. So they make it wonderful to listen to me.
Yeah. Sure. And that's when you've got a good band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's when you've got a good thing. And it's absolutely true. I mean, I don't know, when the song Slow Motion hit, There was definite sea change for me.
Mm.
And it was like, oh, like that, my mind kind of expanded. And I kind of tend to gravitate towards the more philosophical, dark, dissonant stuff. And it was like, okay, jazz fusion, this is fun, little bluesy, okay, little bop. There's some bopping here. And then all of a sudden, you went to a different dimension. And that I don't know, that sort of opened up the record for me. I want to go back to something you said though, Anne. I'm not going to let us drive by this point. How can you talk a little bit more about why this was such a personal growth experience for you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is really about just my relationship with my work. And it's always been this way, whether it's an acting role or singing. I'll often think I'll have some idea of what it should be, right? I'll try to decide what it should be. And my best performances are always when I kind of discover a voice that's not really mine. And it sounds a little strange and it sounds a little wrong and it feels uncomfortable. And ultimately, I find that like I want to be that voice. I find something about it that's alluring. I find my way into it. And it's a little bit more abstract when I'm talking about singing because it's kind of the creation of a character in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, what I can say is when Joel and I were at CalArts, I got invited to be in a production of Closer by Patrick Marber, which is a very tough play.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, a very ugly play. I mean, I got the script. Oh, yeah, well.
Caustic and mean and
so mean. I mean, the characters only credit each other with honesty when they're being cruel to each other. They don't believe each other unless they're hurting each other.
Right.
And I got the script and, because I was trying to stay open, right? So I have something. I'm not busy enough. I need to rehearse from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. and do something in the coffee house theater. I don't know, Joel.
Why do we do that? I think
know.
I stayed up past 2 the other night and it took me a week.
So I got the script and I read it and it's these characters, they all behave badly. They all come to some form of bad end. And all I could think was, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't like this character. I think she gets exactly what she deserves in the end. And I had to kind of check myself and say, how could I play this character and not judge her? How can I get to that place? Because as Joel can tell you, I have some opinions. And that doesn't always serve me. Okay. It doesn't always serve me. And I managed to create a version of this character who she couldn't recognize real love. So she had an affair because she was never sure. She was never sure. And she was terribly fragile. And then that role actually really messed with my head. I had to go talk to Mirjana in the theater office and just be like, I'm freaking out. I don't know who my friends really are. I'm realizing I'm interacting with all my classmates and it's all through scene work. Does anybody really know me? And she's like, all right, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You need to go do something that's just for you right now and ground yourself. And that's when I bought a mountain dulcimer and started singing.
Oh yeah, that was the birth of the dulcimer.
That was the dulcimer moment because she recommended I find something to ground myself and I chose music.
Yeah.
So, but it's similar. Like I have to find a connection in it and then that connection stays with me. So I find that I am more accepting of other people. I remain empathetic to that point of view. And it makes me think too of, I have a lot of stories. There's always plenty. When I went to Eugene, Oregon with Anton Ray and did a production of Trojan Women, right?
Right.
And Anton is a really brilliant director and a monster because he had me play Hecuba. I'm like, I'm not a crone, Anton. You're really going to have me play Hecuba? He had me play Hecuba. But there's this scene in the show in the play where she buries the baby. She buries the child, and Anton, because he's brilliant and a monster, had the baby like kind of made of clay or something, and then there was like a broken baby. So Hecuba's there. He seized on something that Talthybius has to say, which is take him from me. Okay, and you'd think like, well, why wouldn't she just take him? So in the way we did it is that I'm sort of looking away. I can't even look at the child. I know he has my dead grandson, and and he's like, take him. And I open my arms and I hold my arms out as if he's going to hand an infant to me. And then Talthybius drops these broken pieces that fall through my hands. And every night I felt the audience absorb what they were seeing, and they would gasp. So this was a tough show. Okay. It is not easy to do Trojan women. It is just women wailing and death. And every night I had to bury baby parts. And I remember looking forward to closing so much. And I thought I won't have to feel this way anymore. And the show closed, and I was just tired, and we struck, and I got offered a ride home, but I wanted to ride my bike to have the ride. And I got back to my Airbnb, and I still felt the same. And I thought, in the morning, everything's going to be great. And I woke up in the morning, and my first thought was, oh God, you can't leave me here. Don't leave me here. But it left me having never been to war like Anton has. A good person to direct this play, by the way, a veteran.
Yeah. Right.
Having never been to war, I some sliver of an awareness of the cost of war, some sliver of, when you throw your imagination that hard at something, at someone else's experience, you don't necessarily have to get direct testimony. You don't necessarily have to have gone through it yourself. It opens you. I don't delude myself that I know what that would really be like, but it opens you. And I think if you're not doing work that opens you in that way, for me, I don't know why you're doing it, but that's, again, I'm not on my way to meet the financial planner. So like there's reasons to do other kinds of work for other reasons. Okay. But that's something that's very meaningful to me and is why I do it. It's why I do it even when it seems it's a way of life for me. It's a way of understanding the world and becoming more open to other people.
Can I ask a question? And I've been trying to figure out how to word this, but I don't want to, Joel, has something you want to go back to? This is something that I'm genuinely curious about. Is at the beginning of the conversation, you kind of picked up with, and I took this company to Chicago. Yeah. And what I'm interested in, like genuinely curious about, is like, how, obviously there's a time constraint here, but how did you get to that place? You're in Long Island, and you're like in high school, or what does that look like?
No. I mean, I think I must have skipped over. I mean,
no. It was just kind of like, I don't like, wait a minute, hold on. There's a lot. I'm like, wait a minute. How do you get to that place as like a person? What lit that fire? Like, was there an instructor, or your parents, or just your peer group happened to be a bunch of theater weirdos, or what?
Mostly the theater weirdos. Okay. What happened was I went to Mount Holyoke and I started spending a lot of time at Hampshire College, which is a lot of ways, it has some similarities with Cal Arts, like, pretty chaotic, students having a lot of autonomy over their course through the work and no grades, like everybody gets an essay or something from their teacher. Right.
And high pass.
Right. And so I started spending a lot of time with Hampshire students. That's actually where I met Joanna Settle and Katie Tabor for the first time. So we all started working together in different combinations, but not at the same time. And there was a vibe, and we had been hanging together and partying together and talking about art together. And we all graduated from our respective schools and went home, and we're trying to figure out what to do next. I was in New York. Rachel Sled, who was another founding member, was originally from Chicago. She was back in Chicago. I think Katie was in Minnesota. And we just all stayed in touch, and we thought, well, this blows. We're not done with each other yet. We were onto something, we were onto something, and there were certain values that we shared, and there were adventures that we wanted to go on together creatively. And originally the idea was that the company would go to Chicago, and we would do 2 shows. And then we would decide if we were going to move forward from there. And what happened was actually a very strange thing, which nobody expected, which was that some of us wanted to stay and some of us wanted to leave. And the makeup of the company became very different at that point. But yeah, I mean, I've always been, and I mean this sincerely, for better and for worse, a bit fearless with this stuff.
Obviously.
and
Obviously.
led by my
Can confirm.
nose.
Can confirm. I can confirm that.
But that's the thing that frankly that I'm half like, it's a part curiosity and part just like amazement, because you obviously have this thing where it's like a guiding light in an artistic sense, or it's like a personal, like this is something that you feel like you have to do, and so you just go do it. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of, well, what if?
Well, yeah.
Maybe that's, I mean, obviously we're getting the short version of the story here, but like that, as somebody like you're talking about your comment about this is part of my personal development really hit me hard, because this is something that like I'm really just coming into myself in that regard in my late 40s.
Yeah.
I just turned 50 and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I've only got so many days left. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I have some responsibilities. I'm married. I have a couple kids. Like those are legit real world responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I'm kind of, my day job is pretty decent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it affords me the opportunity to do some extra stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it.
Well, I mean, look, I have to be transparent and honest here. I mean, I too work for money. I am a fountain of talents that nobody wants to pay for. That is true.
Well, of all the things
that is brilliant.
All the things that I read this afternoon, you're like your bios, I was really impressed. Like the freelance work, the writing work.
Well,
I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I feel great about bringing that into this conversation, because a lot of what I do is it's some form of marketing consulting or other, right? And so much of it is informed by my training as an actor and my history as a performer, because every time somebody wants me to write, an article or an advertisement or something, I will always ask, and Joel will love this, who you're talking to.
Yes.
What's your relationship to them?
Yes.
What do they think, feel, or believe right now?
Right.
What do you want them to feel or believe? What are you going to do about it? What have you tried and how did it go? Maybe you should try something else. And that's all scene study. I mean, that's what are you doing? What is your action? What is the point of this communication?
Yeah.
Because I can just make an ad for you. I can just come up with something pithy. I do it all day. You know what I mean? But like, what are you actually trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
And also I get to know that the work is good, and I do all kinds of stuff. I mean, right now I'm working on a research paper that's going to be peer reviewed in some medical journal. I mean, there's a lot of furious Googling of terms that I don't understand. But I get hooked up with these subject matter experts who are extremely good at what they do, and they really struggle to communicate their thoughts in writing. And a big part of the problem is they have no sense of narrative.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting that adjacent work, it's founded on your scene study, the sort of the building blocks of scene or act. What do you want? What's standing in your way? How are you going to get what you want? How important is it to you? I mean, that's the stuff I teach in Acting 1.
Yeah.
But, people who watch a play, a movie, a television show, that those folks broke that down. If it's good, they broke that down to have sort of that natural conversation, and it becomes this sort of second nature to us. And I love that it's mind blowing to people that want an ad. They're just like, Anne's a genius. You're like, Acting 1,
it's the foundation of strategy, and so they're really happy about that. And I just find that it keeps me very stimulated to be freelance, because I'm forced into different topics all the time. Like I develop these concentrated bits of knowledge because of whatever expert I'm working with for these months. But then it's always, they move on, I move on, things change, there's different assignments, and it keeps me from feeling stuck, and it keeps me from getting burnt out. Because before I went to grad school, and I was working full time at a marketing firm, a global marketing firm, one of those places it's like the mountaintop to go work. And I got so exhausted there and so incredibly burnt out there. And people would ask me, because it was an impressive place to work, what's it like to work there? And I would say, it's where creative people go to die.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Because they will just squeeze the last drops of
Drop,
blood
yeah.
from your corpse.
Yeah,
Like they're, you know,
right.
it's business, right? Capital
Mhm.
B. So being on my own, I have the flexibility. I can get to all these auditions. I can do all these insane self-tapes that are now requested. Self-taping is
Yeah.
nuts
God.
now.
No, I hate
Um,
it.
and I can work with James and I can record a record and I
Hold on.
can make it all happen. I can get away with it for another year.
What's
Nice.
self-taping?
Oh, Steve.
Oh God. It's when you don't go into a studio and meet the casting director live to do an audition. They send you a script and they want you to shoot the audition in your house.
Like on your
Uh,
iPhone.
yeah, on your iPhone. And this was a trend that was already advancing before the pandemic,
Hmm.
but it
Yeah.
really accelerated. And it didn't only accelerate, but it also exploded
Yeah.
in terms of what is asked of you. And
Yeah.
and look, I'm not going to complain about having opportunities, but I mean, I've gotten storyboards
Mm,
that they were like, we need this shot, we need this angle, we need this close up, we need this, that. And they basically just want you to shoot the whole thing in your house. And then they decide if you're going to do it for real. And so it's just, you know, you can spend a half a day
yeah.
doing all the setups and everything. So it's gotten more burdensome and you need flexibility to be
You,
able to do it.
and I've done a few for my agent, and they're very rudimentary. You know, that's like me in front of a wall or whatever. And I have a little light that I use, but it's nothing fancy. I can't
Mm.
imagine getting sent a storyboard and
That's
like,
happened more than once. That's
oh
happened
my
more than once
god.
to me. Yeah, more than once.
Do
And
you
and
see?
I
Do you see us going back to like going to an actual agency?
Yeah, I
Do
think
you,
so. I
do you
I
think
do
those
think
are?
so. I think for the really for a well-funded network TV show, absolutely. I do
Yeah.
think that there will probably be even more sort of first round
Yeah.
self-tapes
Right.
where, you know, it's more of a callback scenario that you're
Mhm.
going
Sure.
in person.
Hmm.
But there's no real substitute for getting feedback and working, and especially once you're at the callback stage, somebody on production is going to want to work with you a little bit. And
Yeah. Right.
so I think that it will return to a degree. I think certain things have gone self-tape and they're going to stay self-tape
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I hope that the first rounds are stay simple because I really do think, and I'm not trying to waste anybody's time. I'm sure casting is extremely stressed and there's a reason they're sending a storyboard.
Yeah.
But I really tend to think they know in the first 10 to 15
Right.
seconds if they have any interest in you or not. And I would love for it to be a little bit easier. But
Hmm.
you know, this is just the world that we're in, and to stay agile and to stay adaptive is kind of what it's all about.
Yeah. I I uh I definitely want to call back something you said, and to there's something about that hit me really hard, opened me up when you were talking about you finding work that opens you, finding creative outlets that open you up more versus things that close you off more. And obviously there's something to be said for being pushed and challenged, but what are the? I maybe I'll turn this into a question on you because this is not about me. What are some things in your in your time, even as a freelance copywriter
Hmm.
or as a theater maker? I think back to your solo show at CalArts as something that was far and away better than some of the other original things that I saw there.
Aw.
Violette.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, but what are some artistic endeavors, opportunities, things you've done that you felt that opening, felt that magic?
Well, if you bring up Violette, I have to talk about it because,
Yeah.
well, it was just so interesting because it started with um, a class that we took about
Yeah.
for performance art,
Yep.
and I was very put upon to have to take that class
You
because
were.
there's
You
a
were.
reason. There is a
You.
reason. Okay,
You. I forgot. Like you were like offended.
I was really pissed off.
I was stoked. I didn't work as hard as any of you. Like you and Evan
Evan for sure.
and
Evan
and
Cleaver.
and Kendra. I think Kendra worked. You three worked really hard on your pieces. I just sort of farted them out. Sorry about it.
Well, what bothered me about it was that it didn't have a clear definition, and there didn't appear to be any way to do it wrong. So
Yes.
I questioned the need to practice it. Okay.
I didn't practice mine, just full disclosure.
But here's the thing is, as much as I appreciate other work that challenges me, I screwed myself so hard with Violette because I filled it with all kinds of things that irritate me. Because there was the playwright Anne, and I was adapting novels and memoirs from this French author, Violette Le Duc, who was this very enigmatic and crazy kind of figure who hung out with Genet and Sartre and all these, and Camus published her first book, and she's France's greatest unknown writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a huge drama queen. So I was fascinated by her memoirs and everything else. So I started doing this adaptation, and I hate when adults play children. It always bothers me. It just always seems forced and terrible. And of course, I wrote that in. It was kind of like a gauntlet thrown to myself. Like, well, do better. Like, shut up. You do better. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to hate confessional theater, and I filled this script with my own personal reflections and literally had my journals on the stage in a little pile, because I felt this kinship with this woman who was so emotional and absurd, and just felt everything so hugely, and was always going for things that were so impossible. And she was a lesbian who could only fall in love with men and straight women. She called it her passion for the impossible. Like, she was this crazy person, and I just loved her, and I just felt so much empathy for her. I was like, what is wrong with me? So then I just started spilling my guts to explain why I cared, which is something that my friend Katie Tabor, when she saw an early version of the script, was like, Anne, what's missing is why you care. And so then every time I would perform that show, because I did it at Cal Arts, I did it at the Bushwick Star in Brooklyn. I think it was 2012. And then the next year, it went to a festival in Connecticut, and it was directed by Anton Ray.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was funny. I called him and I said, I want you to come to New York and produce my show. And he said, I want to direct your show. And I said, you can try.
Did you let him eventually?
I did let him.
Good.
I did let him. And he contributed some really great stuff that will stay in it forever. So I have to credit him forever now. But every night before I would go on, I would be backstage with my head against a wall saying, why did I do this to myself? Why did I do this? Why am I going to go out there and tell the stories of, like, the times I was in college? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Like these bad relationships that I got caught up in and romanticized to an absurd degree, and very damaging to me, and wax on about this woman and try and play her at all different ages of her life, and try and inhabit somebody I have no business believing that I really know what it was like to be her, right? And I would just think, God, why? Nobody made me do this. I made me do this. And ultimately, what centers me whenever I'm having that kind of stage fright is I have a moment where I sit back there and I just say to myself, this is what I do. Because this is what I do.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a really weird way to spend your life.
It is. Yeah.
Profoundly weird. But I'm very YOLO about it. Like, yeah. I don't hear stories about people on their deathbeds saying, I wish I'd spent more time at work. I wish I'd spent more time sucking up to that boss who never really understood me. Like, they all talk about how they wish they had done more of what they really felt passionate about doing, what they felt connected to, and done it with the communities that they wanted to build. I mean, the community at Cal Arts was a huge part of why I loved it. The community around my theater company was a huge part of why I loved it. Those are the things that people regret if they don't have and they don't pursue. Yeah. So I've sort of been willing to embrace the mess that comes with that. And I don't have a lot of regret about it. And I think that means I'm winning.
I think, I mean, yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I can be surrounded. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to articulate myself here, but I can be surrounded by a thing that I chose and love to do and paint it as a chore and a burden.
Can confirm.
Poor Steve. I mean, it's like, I like complain about my academic job that I get to teach amazing students and direct 2, 3, 4 shows a year and blah, blah, blah. He's always like, yeah, dude, you're living your dream, buddy. Knock it off. But I think we all have to have those. I can totally see you, Anne, just bonking your head against the wall. I can see that happening. And not as a performance, you're not doing this you're doing that because you're struggling. But we all have that moment where we're like, who am I to do this? Who am I to write that thing? Who am I to play in that band?
Right. Absolutely.
I struggle with that at my day job. Like walking in thinking, is this like I'm checking myself? Like, am I the guy? And the answer is, yeah, apparently.
I just don't know. You can always compare yourself to other people. You can always compare what you're doing, your level of success, anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I remember seeing a documentary about Tori Amos when she was very new still. I remember thinking it's a bit quick, but it was actually a really good documentary. And she said, when you're worried about what other people think, which I think aligns with what you're talking about imposter syndrome or worrying about, why should people sit down in the dark and listen to me? Like, why should everybody sit down, shut up and listen to me? You're not necessarily doing it because you expect total acceptance or pure adulation or whatever. You're doing it because it's your form of expression. And that's what she said. She said you're doing it because it's your form of expression. And what happens when you do that is you find your audience and they find you. So you are not the person. Like, there's some people who are going to hear the record, for example, they're crazy, but there are going to be people who hear the record and say, this is not for me. I don't think that I don't like her voice or whatever. But that's not who it's for. It's for the people who start to create a cycle of energy with me. And it's most powerfully felt on stage when you make that connection. Because it starts out being about you and what, me and what brings me joy to do, but it becomes about how that energy spreads and how it hits people and how they start sending it back to me. And suddenly I'm hosting their party. And that's what feels the best.
Yeah.
That's the best.
That's the best.
All these times that I'm throwing it out there, my work, whether it's a role that I'm playing or singing that I'm doing or whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm throwing it out there so that can happen. And that's when it really feels like it's complete.
That was perfect. You're hosting their party.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. That's where the gravy's at. Like, when you can achieve that place.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody's in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the greatest feeling in the world. I can't top that.
Because it also is it takes work and effort and timing and talent to make that happen, but it's ultimately an act of generosity, of creating space, of community, and of celebration. For the most part, not every party is about celebration, but it's about bringing people together for a reason, to have an exchange. I mean, that's why I'm still in love with the theater.
Yeah.
And that's what I really find in teaching. I find the craft of teaching really fascinating and lovely. And having that, I had a class this last semester where I actually said this in class. I'm like, I'm kind of feeling like I'm finally getting to that point where I'm Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society, and like I've you know what I mean? Like, I don't want anybody to, do horrible things to themselves, but at the same time, I'm like creating this like transgressive sort of, is this okay? Should we be doing this? Like, that sort of like feeling of discovery and celebration. And what it all goes back to our hashtag Toot Your Hooter, everybody, because
Totally.
Because like,
we haven't met that. Thanks for throwing that in there, Joel. It's been missing for the last.
I know. I've noticed that. That was a total forced plug.
Sure.
But whatever you're doing, like, do it with that act of generosity of how is this benefiting your person, your cubicle next to you, or how is this benefiting the the people on your team, the people at the party, the people at the restaurant you're working for? Like, how do you, I don't know. That's just a really beautiful goal.
That's something that I it's taken a long time, but I'm starting to grasp the concept of creating space.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's been through your work, Joel, at Doan, because I've watched you turn the same black box into a bunch of different spaces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very different things with very different experiences.
Yeah.
With some of the same people.
Right. Yeah.
And that, frankly, that's just been mind blowing to me on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
That's possible.
And I'm just gonna steal one of Anne's sort of things that she said earlier, that it's like I used to kind of feel like I needed to discount that. I don't know how to say it, like false humility that away.
Sure.
That it wasn't me, but it was me, but it was also the actors, the designers, the whole thing. Like what you said about listening to your record,
about getting all of your shows together. Like I've listened to the play-by-play to those so I know through you that it's not just you.
It's sometimes it's leading a creative team to worlds unknown, and sometimes it's herding cats, right, Anne?
Yes.
Well, and like sometimes it's off trying to find like fake stained glass or the right ketchup bottle or something.
Yes.
I call Joe, like, what are you doing? Well, I'm driving around trying to find this obscure prop.
Yeah.
Because I need it for a thing. You know?
Oh yeah. A lot of that. I learned how to make sugar glass recently, Anne. That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound fun.
Mm-hmm.
Does sound fun.
Wow. We're getting close to the end, Anne, but we have to do our due diligence. It's not a lightning round, and it's really not. I just want to make sure
round.
I know. I'm getting all stressed out now. What is this? What's about to happen to me?
I want to know. We always ask, like, and I know this will be a beautiful, hopefully amazing list of things, but
no pressure.
No pressure.
God, I know. I'm terrified.
Okay, so your band is Bell Helium. They just made an album.
Yes,
It's beautiful, amazing.
Yes.
Yes, beautiful, amazing music, and I will push that out on our channels. But what are you listening to? What is current, or maybe what is constant and what is current in your musical listening world?
Oh God.
Do you have like a Desert Island record?
Well, I do have a Desert Island record, and it's amazing because it just celebrated its anniversary. Is Blue.
Oh,
yeah.
Joni Mitchell's
Joni
Blue.
Mitchell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 50.
She's been on my mind with that. I remember it's strange. I mean, I have recordings that are touchstones that I go back to. I'm obsessed with everything Beck.
Yeah.
So, it's not always stuff that's new. I mean, I'm a huge Lake Street Dive fan.
They're great.
Rachel Price. Here's the thing. I am a fan of my own instrument. But if I could see which her voice away, like I might. She's amazing, and I'm going to see her. Actually, I'm going to see them coming up soon.
Very good.
And I don't know. It's a hard question right now. A lot of the pandemic time was very quiet. And I actually had a really hard time connecting. I mean, I'm grateful that this record already existed. I did a couple of the pandemic music videos. But it's hard. I wish I had a better answer to that question right now, because it's been a time when it was actually really hard for me to let go and discover new music. I've been so looking forward to the end of this, because it was it just put a veil across everything. And I don't know. Have me on again. I hope I'll have a better answer.
Thank you for sharing that, though, because that's that's an honest answer, and that's totally legit.
Especially because
I went through that for sure, just struggling to find especially things that like would normally very much trip my trigger, to my hooter, and there was just this well, you said it, veil, where it's like it's
Veil.
just things
Well,
that would normally totally do it just aren't.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like I found Middle Kids. Do you guys know the band Middle Kids?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
Nope.
they're great. And I discovered them like right before the pandemic, and like I've had a pin in their record because I know I'm going to engage with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I get that.
Which is kind of a strange feeling.
Yeah, like I'm
So
gonna
it's like
I'm
almost
gonna like this when the veil is lifted.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah,
it's there, but I'm not quite ready to let that all in.
Yeah, I mean London
Yeah.
Grammar is another band
Okay.
that I kind of discovered and I'm holding on to. But yeah, this hasn't been easy. This has
No.
not been creatively. You know, I wished that I could have been one of those people who just suddenly became so prolific or something, but I was frantically reading essays about why can't I be creative right now?
I have a student that I have a student who wrote like I don't know 3 or 4 full length plays, and I'm just like
Oh my God.
I don't even know how to teach me your ways. I don't know, like, but I think it's really profound because you had a very up close and harrowing personal view being where you are
Mhm.
to the early
Oh
carnage.
yeah, New York got very messed up, and I'm not
Mhm.
in New York City anymore. I don't live in the city right now,
Right,
so
right.
I was spared some of it. But I mean, the morgue trucks in the streets were real. I
Yeah.
mean, it was, and the sirens were real.
Mhm.
And I think that you know, I can't sit here and claim to have been more traumatized than, you know, somebody who lost half their family or something
Yeah.
like that. But the
Mhm.
fear was very intense and it was so mysterious.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing, was it was just so unknown and mysterious, and the city got hit so hard that I don't know, like I was so wrapped up in my family and just wanting to keep Ruben and my stepdaughter safe
Mm-hmm.
and and try to just hunker through and wait for life to resume.
Mhm.
And I've never felt that way before. I felt
Mhm.
fiercely protective
Mhm.
and frustrated and angry
Yeah.
at how little I could do. And you know,
Yes.
people are people. They don't necessarily want to be kept at home either.
Well, I mean, that's I think about that though, because I've never been to Port Washington, but I know that it's fairly, you know, populated, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's
sure, yeah, yeah.
but you know, us in Nebraska, like Kirsten and I found a lot of solace in just, you know, driving 20 miles west, and we were in the middle of a dirt road on a cornfield or hiking in the woods. Like
Oh,
we
yeah.
could get away from people, and I think folks that were living in more urban settings had a very different experience.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I say, I'm not in the city, so I wasn't trapped in a tiny apartment
Yeah,
with
true.
both of us trying to work from home and Sophia
Woof.
trying to do school from home and everything. So, you know, we were lucky in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And did find times to get away. I mean, what's really funny is I have friends who were just very very supportive, and we would go and go to restaurants outside in the winter because they'd serve you. If you wanted to go, they would serve you. And we would have blankets over our laps like we were at a football game.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Shivering, eating your
Yeah.
meal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whatever it took to have connection that could feel okay, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
was what we did. But I'm loving like hot weather and sweating and being
Yeah.
out
It's
and
great.
being out with people, and hoping that, I don't know, we were meant to release this record last spring, and
Wow.
we know how that went.
Right.
And I think it's a summer record, and I think it's and all of the depth and the darkness and the beauty and the light is just more vivid to me now after having been through this.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I hope that it hits people, you know, because it hits me, and I made it. And I don't mean that. That sounds terrible. It sounds so egotistical.
No, it's great.
Totally
No,
get
I'm
it.
just saying.
Yeah.
Because
Toot your hooter, Anne. Come on.
I just think, you know, for ears that are opening up again, maybe like mine, maybe I'm not the only one. I don't
No.
know.
I don't think you are. And are you guys going to get to play some of this stuff live? Is that a
Well,
hope?
It is, but the whole band had to kind of scatter, and so everybody's not going to be back in the city until probably September. So we'll figure out something. Yeah. There'll be a party for sure.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, for people that were living in the city, the band members who were living in the city, it was time to go. For a bit. Yep.
Wow.
Well, and normally at the end of this deal, I put on some random outro music that just suits me.
Typically Grateful Dead, but
yeah, or something. I did a really old Bonnie Raitt recording one time. But anyway, you have been gracious enough to provide us with one of the songs off of the record. Is there anything you'd like to say about it? Because that'll be our outro music for this evening. Our dozens of listeners should know about this.
Well, it's a very simple expression, and it's one of the things that I think is so brave about James's songwriting. The lyrics sound like they could be spoken by a child. It's just about the wonder of counting the seconds between lightning flashes and thunderclaps and imagining the journey of a storm across the landscape. I love that. And I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I love that James's voice is also on that track. We're both singing on this. That's rare. He's singing harmony on it, and I think it's very much Grateful Dead inspired after the years of jam banding at Shrine, and I hope that everyone loves it.
Wow. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Anne.
It was a total pleasure.
Yeah,
delight to speak with you.
Yeah, really great to have you. Thank you so much.
Counting the thunder, lightning shows, storm it goes. 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 Down into the valley, up into the hills, over darkened waters, echoing. Show.